Good morning. You guys said I sounded sad on my last video, so I'm going to try and sound a bit happier today. How do you like that? So, I'm doing this update because I'm feeling in my bones a bounce today, temporary, which will obviously be triggered by a news event if we do get it. So, what does that mean? Because it's Friday, and obviously, if there is a bounce, it's going to be a weekend trap bounce. So let's talk about that in this video. What do we actually do? So I'm going to start first with the top down stuff. Just having a look at Bitcoin on the daily. So we are in the danger zone because we are right at the POC that you can see right here, this red line. And you can see that this is the highest amount of volume. So if you've not seen this tool before, I don't often use it. So it's not officially part of the course because it's not officially a TBD system thing. It's just yet another indicator for Confluence. But anyway, I'll just briefly tell you that basically what this means, these are volume nodes. So when it pushes out like this is the most highly transacted area. Think of it like your volume. When you have volume underneath, it's the spikes are telling you that's where the most volume happened in relation to candlesticks, right? But this tells you where the most amount of volume happened in relation to price. So that's a little bit better because it tells us whether people think well, not whether they think, it tells us that they're willing to step in. They're willing to step in and transact. So there would be a lot of people shorting here, so selling, and a lot of people buying because for every buyer has to be a seller, vice versa, you know that. Whereas when it gets down here and you have these little peaks like this, or little pits, let's say, it's not really fair value on both sides. So there's not as big a battle between buyers and sellers when you see this dip like this. And that's why we get vector candles, right? Because one side is more powerful than the other. Sorry. So the point of control is telling us right now that this is a high volume area. Obviously, this is where buyers want to step in and they don't want to see price break lower, but sellers also want to step in and they don't want to see price higher. So this is what is going on, and that's why price has been still for 3 days and we're in this battle zone. Now, we don't have really any vector breaks of the 50 EMA on the daily time frame, but the last two candles and so far today's candle is under the 50 EMA, so we have to keep an eye on that. But essentially, this is where a decision should be made because we're in that area where people agree to transact both sides of the market. Going down to 4 hour, still on the trapping volume formation here that started here and just waiting really for that to complete. So trapping volume formation, this is a drop, and there was potentially one more to go. Will that get to the 90K? Maybe. Is the 90K still there? It's lightened up a bit. So there's that. It's there, but it's lightened up. Not really sure what that means. 78 is still there. Okay, so we know all of that. Let's go back to the chart then. So here we have news events actually, I'll go down another time frame to talk about news events. Actually, let me talk about the 1 hour before we talk about news events. So this is a bit annoying because we really have been if this is level one, we really have been in a level one retracement for the entire week. I actually do think that there's something very tricky going on in this accumulation. And it's sort of part of why I think we're going to have a big move today. And I'm just hoping that the big move is the bounce to give us finally level two, but might not be, might be a big move like down. So we have to wait and see. But it's in relation to these highs and lows, right? So this is basically an accumulation range. And if we have a look, I'm not sure how clear I can make this. I'll just make it really big. So when I hover over a candle, have a look up here. See how it says OHLC? Have a look for the L in this situation. Have a look at the number. So see how the L is 96,100 and then the next L is 96,106. So it's a $6 difference, which is a $6 trap trader difference, essentially. So there's, $6 between this week and this week, where it's technically a higher low, but it's a higher low by $6. So it is trapping someone here. Now, when we go here, now you're looking at the H, so the high. 99, 124 was this high. And then we go to here, 98, 351. So again, this is a lower high, but only by, I don't know how much, but like under $100. So it's technically trapping traders. It hasn't released the very top traders of this week. So we're trapping traders both sides in this accumulation range. That's what the market maker does when they are accumulating contracts to get ready for a big move. Then after doing that twice or doing it one time each side, they extended the low down here. So it's obviously another way to trap because then they just came back into the zone. So what I'm waiting to see is, was this extension to the downside part of the final damage to one side? And it's actually the beginning of the trend now, as in the trend is going to be down. Or was this spiking the low to induce more shorts because we're going to bounce on the news and go to the upside? So how will I know? I'm going to have to pay attention to the 15-minute time frame today, leading up into this news event. And really, if we don't revisit this candle here, this low, or too much into it, I should say, let's just say that yesterday's low of the day, then it's a trend. We're trending to the downside. Oh, wait, what did I say? If we don't revisit this area, it's a trap and we're probably going to reverse and get our 1 hour level 2 rise finally. If we revisit this zone, it's the trend and the damage was done here already in trapping longs. And this will break down further and we're going to create lower lows because we've got a lower low. This currently is a lower high. So it is possible that the trend has been created, but let's watch what happens where the initial high and low of the day is set and whether or not UK respects them both or breaks one of them. So what does that mean as far as what I would actually enter today? So after a move like this, I would not personally enter short positions, but also I'm a lot different to you guys because I strictly follow the method. And if the method isn't doing what it's meant to do, I sit out. I don't flip-flop my mind. So I won't, like some of you may have shorted here throughout the week and on a 15-minute time frame, fine. But remember, I trade the 1 hour. So I trade the weekly setup and I follow the rules of that only. So I'm not looking to take these 15-minute shorts down. So I'm not saying anyone who did that did anything wrong. You did the daily setup and that's totally fine. Sorry, my phone's going sick again. But for me, I trade the weekly setup, which means I need to follow the rules of the weekly setup. And the weekly setup says rise level 1, retracement for the whole damn week, right? So it's annoying, but it doesn't mean I'm going to change. So I wouldn't short because I don't short after rise level 1. Okay. That's the only reason. Even if this dropped out, mind you, don't forget, I'm in a higher time frame short anyway. So it's okay. When I say I wouldn't short, what I mean is I'm not opening new shorts today. And I also prefer, if I get my positions, I like to get peak formation positions. So short here, long here. I don't really like to get in between positions. And that's just because it requires me to be a lot more active. So again, this is not me telling you what to do or not to do. This is me telling you how I personally make decisions. So the problem is that on this long that I did get, I've already, I had moved my stop loss under here. It was somewhere under here. Actually, I think it was even earlier. I'm pretty sure I got stopped out on this because I've been out of my long mostly for a while. So I think, I don't know, but somewhere here. Anyway, moral of the story is the price has hit my stop loss on my long. So I'm not in any long positions right now on anything. So if I am to follow the model unemotionally and I can see rise 1 retrace at this point in time, then I should be expecting a level 2 rise, which means because my initial entry has been stopped out, I will look to take a long position if I get the trigger to take a long position. But I'm not looking to take a short position because the way that I personally have done my count a short position would be against my rules, right? I would be shorting after level 1 rise. And that for me is wrong. So that means I'm basically banking on news events later, or potentially into, like UK might do it, session opens, things like that. I'm banking on one of them to change this structure. Like we've basically held the low of the week, the whole week too. So I'm banking on that to get my level 2 rise. And if I get it, I'll enter and I will hold through the weekend depending on how powerful the move is. Like if level 2 rises like this, it's going to move into profit very fast, and it's going to allow me to move my stop loss to break even, potentially even some profit. And then I'm risk-free. And when I can be risk-free before a weekend, and I think there's further levels to go, in that situation, I would hold through a weekend. But if I can't be risk-free, I tend not to risk it. There's no point. I just have the weekend off. So that would be the only scenario in which I would take a trade today and hold through the weekend. If we don't get that and we break down further, like I said, my peak formation high short is still currently open, and I will just let that ride through the weekend because that's already well and truly risk-free. And if we got the short confirmation, then we'd be looking at a 90K target, which is going to be scary for people. But also the sentiment is extremely bearish on social media today as well. So that's another reason why, like, I think maybe later on we might get a bounce. I'm not sure. But what could another scenario possibly be that I would look for today? Let me think. Let's go to the 15-minute and see if there's any other scenarios that I would look for today. So when I look at the 15-minute time frame, okay, so if this is going to be our spike low, then it's not really a stopping volume candle or anything. Today, Asia, I don't like this fast move to the downside. I would have liked to see Asia consolidate a little bit more. So that's not great. However, it could just be cementing its initial low of the day before it closes, because we're kind of close to extension time. So this could even be the extension to the downside. So when you have an Asia extension to the downside towards the end in the gap, you may get a session changeover W. Right? So that could be what is happening now. So I would keep an eye on something like this playing out, again, providing it doesn't break down too far into our trap trader area. Then that's okay. I'd still keep an eye to see if UK gives me the trend change, and I would take a new long position there if I got it. And if not, then it's going to come down. It's going to release these. And look, it might even create a lower low. Sorry, if it breaks it, it might even create a lower low, a new lower low by the end of Asia. And UK might still do this. So it's not about whether or not it does it here. It's about, do I get this sometime between Asia to UK, wherever that ends up being? Then I will act. If I don't get it there, it could be that UK just ranges and I get it as a result of news later on. So that's the only two scenarios that I would look to get into a trade. And then, if it turned out that I didn't get it until this, I would watch the first couple of hours of US to see if I got my move out. And, it could even be that this peak doesn't happen here, but it happens at the start of US. Being a Friday, we've seen that happen a lot. So yeah, it's going to take a bit more activity today to know if we're going to pivot or not. And as long as I can move my stop loss to break even before I'm ready to shut the computer for the weekend, I will stay in that trade through the weekend. But yeah, if we don't get any of that, I'm not like FOMO entering a long position. It's just, if I get it, then according to my 1 hour count, it would be level 2. Because my level 1 entry stopped out, I will re-enter, and this applies to anything. So lately what I've been trading is Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, XRP, XLM, HBAR, Link. That's it. That's pretty much been it for me. I'm just concentrating on those few, and I will look at them all because one of them tends to bounce first. Actually, let's have a look at what ETH is doing. Oh, this was a joke I made up in Discord. Ignore that. Actually, there is something about ETH, it does this wick like this. It really is screaming to me that ETH is going to revisit that wick. it's not normal that you have a very large wick like that and we don't revisit the area that it spiked into. So whether that happens now or we have this relief and then it happens, you know, in a couple of weeks' time, which is what this sort of joke, but not really a joke, was about. I do think at some point we're going to revisit this wick, especially because the next few candles have not moved away. So this is lower time frame, very much H pattern vibes. And here we go. You can see it here. So this was H pattern and it's starting to break down. So you've got to watch a candle close. You've got to watch halfway of this wick. You've got to watch the end of the wick. Any of those could cause trend reversals. But even if we got the trend reversal, like let's just say it happened today off a news event, you know, if it happened today off a news event and we only like came back to here, I still think there's a high risk of us revisiting the bottom of the wick, like by the end of the month. So yeah, what would change my mind is getting back above this area of interest. So yeah, anyway, we'll deal with that if we have to later on. But as far as today, yeah, look, I probably wouldn't act on alts right now, to be honest, because I want to see that. I want to see the H complete at least to the candle close. That's going to be a much better trade opportunity than me trying to enter a trade right now. And this explains why. Okay. So at a very simple rule, if you're new here and you want to know every day when you're doing your charting, should I be charting altcoins or Bitcoin today? First of all, you have to chart Bitcoin every day. But as far as what trade will you enter and what's going to give you the bigger like percentages, the dominance is here. Okay, so this one here is Bitcoin dominance, and look at it. It's super, super bullish. So the interest is in Bitcoin, whether you long it or short it, doesn't really matter, but you're going to do better percentages generally with Bitcoin because the dominance is rising. Also, the USDT dominance here is, you know, it's broken resistance, so that's a risk off. And the totals are all doing the H pattern that I showed on the 4-hour time frame right here. Right, so it looks like they're just playing out now, and we know to watch here. And then I did this on the last video, so I won't go over it again. But yeah, alts are bleeding. No nice way to say it. So yeah, in a case like this, I like, instead of, this is for me personally, it's not advice for you, especially if you are not overall profitable yet because you're still in your learning phase. But for me personally, if I see Bitcoin dominance like this and I see the totals like this, instead of trying to open a few trades at a time on all different things, I will just go, because every trade you open is 1% risk, right? So if I opened Bitcoin, ETH, Solana trade at the same time, usually, then I have 3% risk on the table. So instead of doing that, when I see the dominance is like this, I'll just go 3% risk on my Bitcoin trade. But again, I'm not telling you to do that. I do that because I can absorb a 3% loss. If you aren't at the point in your journey where you are consistently profitable, you should still be sticking to 1% for every trade and every trade that is open at the same time. So in that case, if you were still trying to be profitable and you want to enter Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana at the same time, you have to be 0.33% risk on each of those trades, so that if they all get stopped out, you've actually only lost 1%, not 3%. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, rambling now, but that's the moral of the story. That's my morning routine. And that is my process of deciding if I enter a trade on a Friday, will I hold it through the weekend? Hope that was helpful.